let's continue. We've gone into looking deep into the Go code and all the nuances. Now, we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into scalability and maintenance. Over to Abhishek.
Thank you.
Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Gautam, and good afternoon, everyone. A quick show of hands. How many of you here work with relational databases like MySQL or Postgres? Okay, a lot of you. And how many of you have been through a database maintenance activity at least once? Again, quite a few of you, right? So I'm going to talk about database maintenance at scale, not just for one or two, but hundreds of databases at once, and how we achieved it by leveraging something called maintenance mode in our microservices. So a quick intro. I am Abhishek. I work as a software architect at Cred, where I also lead the merchant payments and financial engineering teams. I've been in the industry for more than 13 years now, and writing Go for more than 7 years. I am also an open source enthusiast with contributions to a bunch of projects. And this is my second time at GopherCon, so really excited to be here. Okay, a quick check. How many of you here have used the Cred app? Okay, so you may know that we provide a variety of offerings to our members, right? So you can come, you can pay your credit card bills, you can pay your utility bills, you can do UPI payments, you can buy insurance, you can even purchase premium D2C products, right? All within Cred. Now talking in terms of scale, over 1/3 of credit card bill payments in India happen on Cred app. This amounts to a total processing volume of around 7 lakh crores. And all of this is powered by a network of over 800 backend microservices and 150 plus databases, which we deploy in our production. So this is how, at a very high level, how our tech setup looks like. So our app talks to our backend services through an API gateway. Most of these backend services that we have, they have their own dedicated databases which they talk to. And so we have plenty of databases which are deployed, and most of them are relational in nature. Now, coming to the topic of database maintenance. So firstly, what are we talking about? So to clarify, we are specifically talking about database maintenance of relational databases like MySQL or Postgres. Okay, secondly, why is database maintenance required? So it is required for quite a few reasons. For example, for version upgrades or for scaling up, scaling down, etc. And how is database maintenance achieved? So it's typically achieved by promoting one of the replicas to be a master and then switching the database endpoint in the application so that it can talk to the newly promoted master. Right? Now imagine if we have to do this activity for hundreds of databases, the first step is to consolidate it, right? And then finalize one date and time when this activity could be executed. Now, earlier, this is how this activity used to be carried out, right? So, date and time, somewhere, let's say midnight around 3 AM would be finalized. And if we have to do this activity for like 100 databases, around 70 plus team members would join that activity, right? The first step would be to take a downtime on the app, wherein our users would see, okay, Cred is going through a downtime. Then the respective service owners would go and they'll bring down their application containers. Then the database team would go and perform the database switch activity. Once the activity was done, the service owners would again come and they will start the containers again. Then the QA team will do the validation, the sanity of all the flows before the traffic could be enabled on the app, right? Now this used to take 2 to 3 hours for 100 databases, right? And 2 to 3 hours of downtime was definitely not acceptable. So this was the problem to be solved. So the objective was clear. How do we reduce the downtime, right? And to reduce the downtime, we had two major problems to be solved. Number one, how do we avoid bringing down these service containers? Because that was the most time-taking step in this activity that I just talked about. And the second thing was, how do we even automate this entire activity? So an interesting question now comes up, like why do you even need to bring down these service containers, right? Now again, there are two reasons for it. Now, if you remember, I mentioned that during a DB switch activity, one of the replicas is promoted to be a master, right? And a replica can only be cleanly promoted to a master once the bin log position of your master stabilizes, right? And the bin log position of the master to stabilize, the database should not receive any write traffic, right? So this was one reason why we used to shut down the container so that we could terminate the traffic to the database. The second reason was connection refresh. Now, once a replica is promoted to be a master, the database endpoint now resolves to a new IP, right? And if these database connections in the application are not refreshed, we would see connection errors on the application, right? So we solved this problem by introducing a feature called maintenance mode in our microservices. And this was done by building maintenance libraries. So now what I'm going to do is I'll talk in detail of how these maintenance libraries actually work. So this is how the overall setup looks like. So we have, let's say, a particular service. Now that service could use a maintenance library to toggle the service into or out of maintenance, right? And these maintenance libraries, they listen to a etcd key for that particular service through which this mode could be toggled, right? And we built these maintenance libraries in Java as well as Golang because those are the predominant languages that we use. This is how the clients or services use the maintenance library. So they register something called as handlers. Now these handlers could be depending upon what protocol or what message queues or what databases the service is used. So it could be HTTP handler or gRPC handler, SQS handler, Kafka handler, database handler, etc. Right? This is a more detailed view of the maintenance library. So as I mentioned, we have all these handlers which are implemented. It could be for API, for queue, for databases, etc. Or you could go and implement custom handlers as well. Then there is this event source. etcd is one event source that we use, but you could go and extend it to a different event source as well. And then there is this manager which coordinates everything between the handlers and the event sources, right? Now if you see, the handlers is where the most of the logic resides. And this is the core of the library, right? Now what I'm going to do is talk about how these handlers actually work and how they enable maintenance mode in the services. So all these different handlers that I talked about for HTTP, gRPC, Kafka, etc., they implement a simple handler interface. This interface has two methods. One is on maintenance start. So this method is triggered whenever a service goes into maintenance. Then there is another method which is on maintenance end, and this is triggered when the service goes out of maintenance, right? Now if you remember, we had two problems to be solved, right? One was the problem of traffic termination. Now we will go into how these handlers actually help us to solve the problem of traffic termination. So if you look at, for example, the HTTP handler, right? Now this handler uses a simple interceptor or a middleware which returns a custom response if the service is in maintenance mode, It also waits for the existing request to be drained. If the service is not in maintenance mode, then it definitely allows the request to pass through. Similarly, we have the gRPC handler, which also works in the similar fashion, right? In addition to it, what it also does is there are certain gRPC health check related methods which it excludes from the maintenance so that the health check does not fail for the service. Then let's look at the Kafka handler. Now, whenever a service goes into maintenance mode, the Kafka handler, it stops all consumers, right? And it waits for existing in-flight messages to be drained. And when the maintenance ends, the Kafka handler would start the consumers again. Similarly, we have the SQS handler. It does the same thing. When the maintenance mode is on, it would stop all the consumers. And when the service is out of maintenance, then it will again start consuming all the messages. So now you would have seen that we have solved the problem of traffic termination by ensuring that whenever the service goes into maintenance, we are not receiving any new incoming traffic, right? And hence there are no new writes which are going to the database. Now let's come to the other problem which was to be solved, which is of connection refresh. And this is where the database handler comes to rescue, right? Now let's see how that works. So the database handler, what it does is, whenever the service goes into maintenance, the first thing that it does is it caches the existing database connection configurations, which would be used later. Then it updates the current connection configurations to minimum values. For example, it sets the number of idle connections to 0. It sets the number of maximum open connections to 1. It sets the lifetime of the connection to a very low value, right? So this forces very aggressive connection refreshes, right? Without restarting the container, right? And it obviously waits for existing connections to be drained. Now, once the service goes out of maintenance, the database handler had it is responsible for restoring the connection values which it had cached from the previous step, right? Okay, so now we have solved the problem of not shutting down the containers for one service, right? But then we had another problem. How do we automate this entire activity for hundreds of databases, right? So that was actually simpler. So what we did was we built something called a maintenance control tower, which is responsible for automating it. So the way it works is, this control tower is capable of automatically taking the downtime on the app. Then it goes to our API gateway, which is Kong. It terminates the traffic in an automated fashion. Then it enables maintenance mode for all the services which are part of that particular activity. Then it also goes and does the database maintenance in an automated fashion. Once the maintenance is done, then it goes and disables it. It also does automated validation at each and every step, right? Before enabling the traffic and removing the downtime on the app. Now with maintenance control tower, the entire activity could be done by a single operator within a few minutes. This is how it actually works. So the service owners need to do just two things. Number one, they need to implement this maintenance library into their services. Secondly, they need to come to this maintenance control tower and just update their service configuration, wherein they can just define that, hey, this is what my service is, this is what the etcd key for that service is, and they can also define a sample HTTP request with normal response as well as maintenance response. So this is used for all the automated validations that we do. And whenever an activity has to be performed, there is a simple activity file which the database team can create. They can then list down all the services which are supposed to be part of that activity, and they can just execute the activity. Now talking about the impact, So as I mentioned, a single operator can now do maintenance for hundreds of databases within minutes, which earlier used to take 2 to 3 hours. We have successfully carried out over 15 plus activities using this method, saving tens of hours of downtimes and hundreds of developer hours, right? So that's it from my side. This is where the reference code is. You can go and try it out. I also have my team who built this, Gaurav and Shridev, and we are open to take any questions that you may have.